So I know what you're thinking. With unpredictable weather, busy lives, and the cost of everything going up, you're wondering, is homesteading still worth it in the modern age? So the truth of the matter is, there are plenty of days where I look around and say, man, that's a lot of work. The chickens don't take a day off, neither do the cows. The weeds aren't gonna weed themselves, and there's always something to do. But today we're gonna talk about how to build a resilient homestead that kind of takes away some of that effort so that you can get away and go do things that aren't requiring you to be here on the landscape all the time. One of the things that we've done to create a really resilient regenerative farm is by integrating animals to the system. Now, if we're just using tractor power, that's a lot of time, money, effort, and fuel spent in like plowing landscapes, tilling things under, planting new things, harvesting, but we can use chickens to mitigate a lot of that time, fuel, and maintenance cost. We still have a tractor, but this is on like a giant scale. If you're on a smaller scale, it might look like backyard chickens or the portable coops that we've shown you in videos past that move through the landscape and allow chickens to do their thing. Now, what are they doing? They're adding fertilization back to the soil. Their manure is one of the best manures and fertilizers that you can get on the landscape. It actually changes the pH of the soil while adding nitrogen and making a resilient pasture or garden or wherever you have the chickens. We really like chickens in a mobile capacity. The next thing that we do is move the cows around and integrate them into the landscape. Now, cows could be goats or even chickens, you know, but the principle is the same. We have a lot of impact and then even more time off. So the cows will come in, they'll eat, the chickens will come right behind them, and it leaves a pasture that, as it's overgrown, gets back better and better every time. We might have to do a little bush hogging or do some really tight containment to get that, you know, golf course view, but that's not what we want in our pasture, right? We want a biodiverse landscape that only comes from integrating animals. So people say, I'm gonna buy a homestead and get rich, and that's not the case. That's not the case at all. The fact of the matter is that, like, we're building competing systems, and all that money is gonna get spent by somebody else, and then they're gonna profit off of you in the long term. When you start a homestead, you're taking ownership of your well-being and the land around you and your friends and your family. But I tell you all this stuff, and like, you're still gonna have to go through the trials and tribulations and learning how to do it on your own. It gets easier over time, particularly as we build systems. That's why we give a lot of free resources away to kind of like, you know, give you the, you know, pass, go, collect $200 sort of entry into homesteading. But it's still a learning process. We hear a lot of like permaculture design experts saying, I'll design the system for you. No one can design a homestead system for you. They can give you a toolkit that'll help you in that process, but they can't do the work for you. In that work, it becomes really rewarding. You're gonna learn a lot of skills, you're gonna learn how to build stuff, you're gonna have the highest quality produce, and a system that you can potentially leave to your kids and have, like, if they want it, you know, that's a discussion in itself. But like, all of the rewarding things that you will build come from the hard work. That's homesteading, that's life. I joke that like I had money and then I bought a farm. If you're looking to homestead, it's not about the money, it's about the outcome and the produce that you're producing. So one of the ways that we create a resilient homestead is by not allowing chemicals into our garden. Of course, we've got to add some things, mainly minerals or lime if we want to change the pH or if we're deficient in something. But for the most part, and those are really like fast forward buttons, because we could do all of that by, like, you know, growing stuff and just like over time building up the organic matter in the soil. But we really don't want to bring anything to the landscape that we wouldn't be comfortable eating. Like, here's our tomato plants. We've got some like cherry tomatoes growing, and it's nice to know that like this plant looks pretty good, and the tomatoes, we could just eat them like, oh man, yeah, that's good. Anyway, then we could just like eat them off the vine. The less stuff we put into the garden, the less chemicals. It's less stuff that we have to buy, but it creates like a really nice growing. Now this is like, you know, 12 years in the making. We've added a lot of organic matter through cover crops and stuff. So don't compare your day 1 to our day 15 years. It's about not adding stuff that isn't natural. Gives us the highest quality produce for ourselves, our family, our community. It's what we're about. Resilient homesteads, not buying stuff from the store, opting out of the system while creating our own competitive system that creates like the highest quality produce. So the last few months in Southwest Virginia have been like really trying. We've had like some super heat waves, a lack of rain for a long time, and then like over the past week we've had some pretty intense showers about every day. But the way that we design our homestead, we want to sink the most water into the ground so we can storage that way. Some plants have like suffered in that, you know, that changing of weather and no rain and too much, and then others have like surprised us and really taken off. But like the rain gauge don't lie. We've gotten some rain here in the past week. But yeah, the way that we design our homesteads should be resilient, and that no matter what nature throws at us, because we're working with nature, we can have a more resilient and abundant system. We've talked about the terraces in this garden, slowing, spreading, and sinking water out. Now that doesn't cut it when there's no rain coming from the sky, but it cuts down the need for drip irrigation. But that's something that we installed this year because the initial part of this spring was just so hot that when we put plants into the garden, we're on a large enough scale where hand watering just isn't really a thing. There were plenty of days that we were out here at like 8:30, 9:30 with a hose and like headlamps trying to like save the plants that we started. But it's just another redundancy. So resilience goes hand in hand with redundancy. When one system fails or one system doesn't meet all the necessary obligations, we can add other systems, whether that be like a well pumping water to the drip irrigation, or maybe some swales in addition to our terraces to like slow and spread and sink water through the landscape. Maybe it's some keyline plowing, maybe it's some intelligent earthworks, but building the redundant systems so that one doesn't have to carry the whole load of the homestead. That's how we build resilient homesteads in the long run.
All right, Scott, how much hate did you get?
Bro, I don't know that we got hate, but we definitely got like one hate on that one's probably not quite ready, but whatever. On the black heirloom, damn, that's good.
How good?
It's like...
What would you do, Dave Portnoy?
One bite, everybody knows the rules. It's like a 8-1 maybe, 7-9, 8-1, somewhere in there.
What about a 6-7?
Maybe a 6-7, 6-7. But yeah, we got a lot of hate on these like heirloom black cherry tomatoes. One dude swore that they were like GMO hybrid. And it's like, bro, you don't, like, I bought the seeds, bro. Like, I'm not gonna tell you wrong, but no, they're good, they're cool. This is definitely one that I would plant again. It's different from like the cherry tomatoes. It's got like a much thicker skin. That's all for the hater comments. Yeah, that's all I have to say about that. One of the things that we had to deal with this year was in early May, there was just like a whole lot of heat on Southwest Virginia. And we planted all our peppers. Fortunately, like these really popped off and like are surprising. The banana peppers are just like rocking and rolling. I'm not gonna eat that. I don't really enjoy those as much as Tori does, but you know, they're cool. But over here, like some of the peppers, like you just see like a block down here, we're just like no peppers have made it. Like the jalapenos, we've got like, you know, one. And then over here, these are like some of like some really hot chili peppers, but like, where are they? Now I know what you're saying. It's like, oh, there's weeds there and stuff. It's like, yeah, but they didn't kick off nearly as much as the ones that have done well. And I think that was just heat, and we tried watering them, but like that was such a brutal time for the temperature that these didn't kick off. But this is why I mention this is because a resilient homestead has multiples of things going on. So if one pepper doesn't do well, another pepper might be great, and that's why I mentioned that. So we want a lot of different varieties, preferably, you know, heirloom varieties that we can save the seed and replant them. But that's why I mentioned it in this case, because a resilient homestead has a lot of different things that we can pull from. Say one crop doesn't do good, maybe our corn doesn't do well, but we have some other things to eat. Maybe you know, the peppers don't do well, but we've got tomatoes. Maybe the squash doesn't do well, but we've got beans. Having this like variety and diversification in the garden is what really makes for a resilient homestead. So we just talked about what makes a resilient homestead, but really a resilient homestead comes from a resilient owner and a resilient caretaker of the land. We've got a lot of tips and tricks to make it easier on you to achieve abundance and create the highest quality produce for yourself, your family, and your community. That's what we're about. Comment or check the description box and we'll make sure that we send it straight to your inbox so we can save you time, money, and effort and get you faster to abundance. Learn from our mistakes, learn from our time, learn from our money. And get back to the land in the fastest way possible. That's what those resources are for. Join us in person, subscribe, keep checking this page, and hopefully we'll put out some great content for you in the future too.